St. Paul in his letter to the Corinthians says, if Christ has not been risen, then my preaching is useless and your faith is in vain. That my preaching is useless today and your coming to the church is in vain. That is why our whole life is based on the resurrection of Christ. If we have to scan through the entire Bible, the Holy Scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, the Bible can find meaning only through the resurrection. If there is no resurrection, the whole Bible will be a history book and not the book of faith. In today's gospel passage we find, taken from John, Mary Magdalene went early to the tomb with the other Mary, and they found the stone was already rolled out. The tomb was open. But if you refer last evening's gospel for the vigil mass, that was taken from Matthew 28. There was the earthquake, and the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and he rolled back the stone while Mary and Mary Magdalene were present. Now, I do not know how Matthew got that idea. The angel of the Lord descending from heaven and rolling back the stone. But Mary Magdalene and Mary did not see Jesus. Where was Jesus? If the angel of the Lord had rolled back the stone, Jesus should have come out of the tomb. But there was no evidence of Jesus coming out of the tomb. Why? Jesus can penetrate the walls and even penetrate the stones after the resurrection. That is the very clear proof that Jesus could appear to Mary Magdalene and Mary on their way when they were about to meet the disciples. He could meet the disciples in Galilee. He could also walk with those two disciples who were going to Emmaus. That is the universal presence of Jesus all the time for eternity. That is what we are celebrating today. I would like to draw your attention to three important facts that happened on the day of the resurrection. Now we know that in Matthew's Gospel chapter 27, when Jesus died, he was laid in the tomb and they rolled a huge stone against the tomb. The Pharisees and scribes and the chief priests and the elders went to Pilate and complained, well, we would like to secure the tomb. This man who had told that he would rise again. Actually, Jesus had told his disciples and those listeners around him, the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the elders. He will be persecuted, he will be put to death, and on the third day he will rise again. No leader in the entire history of mankind predicted his own death or her own death as well as the resurrection. That is only found in Jesus. And that's why these people were very particular to guard the tomb. Now, historically, dear friends, you will never find a tomb that was guarded with soldiers. Have you heard of any tomb that was guarded with soldiers to prevent the dead man coming out of the tomb? I have not heard of that. It is only the tomb of Jesus that was guarded. Three facts to remember: the stone, the Roman seal that was put on the stone, and the guards. Now let us go to these facts. What is rolling back the stone? Dear friends, Jesus would never ever remain in a tomb. Because Jesus' whole mission was to be the light of the world. His mission was to give life, life in abundance. And that is why when he was at the tomb of Lazarus, he asked them to roll away the stone. Even though Martha had told, Lord, it is already 4 days. There is a stench. But Jesus says, roll back the stone. A concrete lesson to all of us. We are Christians. We cannot be imprisoned in a stone tomb. We have to come out. And that's why the concrete lesson to all of us as Christians, we have to remove the stone of division. We have to be people for all people. Irrespective of caste, creed, religion, color, nationality or language, Christians must be for all people. We cannot put barriers, we cannot put stone walls, or we cannot put a stone between us. That is what we mean by rolling back the stone. Rolling back the stone signifies importance of life, importance of light. You cannot shut life underneath. You cannot shut life in prison. You cannot put the light under a bushel basket. It should shine out. That's why we need to break the stone of indifference, egoism, selfishness, and self-importance. We need to come out of that tomb. And ultimately, it is to come out of our sinfulness, to show to the world that Christians are for life. Christians must proclaim the light of Christ, and Christians must proclaim the peace of Christ. That's the first thing. The second thing, the Roman seal that was placed on the tomb of Jesus has a significance. It was broken. Who could break a Roman seal? No one could. During the time of Jesus, if anyone were to even touch the Roman seal that was put somewhere, they would be punished. Even they would be punished with death. That is why people were scared. Wherever there was a Roman seal, that was well guarded and that was protected, and no one was allowed even to break or touch the seal. Now, who could break a Roman seal? Only God could do that, not human beings. Even though Pharisees and scribes went to the city, told the guards, you tell a story that his disciples came at night and stole the body, which was not true. What was the truth? God broke the seal. Long back, God had broken the seal of Pharaoh, liberating people from Egypt. Now with the resurrection, God broke this Roman seal, telling to the Jewish people and to his disciples, you are no slaves anymore. No one can put a seal on you saying that you are our slaves. No, Christians are free people. The only seal that God puts on us is the seal of baptism. You are sealed with the seal of God. And no other human seal can prevent us. And that is the second one. The third one, the guards. You can just imagine, how can a person come out of the tomb when the Roman guards were protecting the tomb? It was a splendorous explosion of light that came from Christ. When he broke out of the tomb, the guards ran away. Signifying, dear friends, we Christians cannot be snubbed or put in prison. We know that all over the world there are many Christians in the prison, but they are physically in the prison. But in their heart, they are free people. If we Christians can hold on to our faith, dear friends, no prison can hold us. No matter who is the dictator and who is a leader, we cannot be imprisoned. That is the reason the apostles went all over the world to proclaim the good news. They were not afraid of cultures. They were not afraid of kings. They were not afraid of dictators. They went all over the world to proclaim the good news. And that should be the task of each and every Christian, to proclaim the joy of the gospel. No barrier should prevent us from preaching the gospel of Christ. That is the greatest mission that is entrusted with us. I was watching the CNN Finding Jesus program during this Lenten season. I do not know how many of you have watched at least some of the beautiful episodes. The subtitle is Fact, Faith and Forgery. Finding Jesus. I liked one beautiful episode. Casually I watched it. It was the episode of Thomas. Thomas was a person who was doubting always. And when the disciples told him that we have seen the Lord, Thomas said, unless I put my hand into his side and put my fingers into his wounds, I will not believe. That was Thomas. But after 7 days, when Jesus appeared in that closed room, Thomas was present. And he could not believe his eyes. He was completely melted down. And what did he say? My Lord and my God. That was a total change in the life of Thomas. And the TV program said, from then onwards, Thomas disappeared. He was not to be found. Even in the scripture, you cannot find a trace of Thomas when he uttered those words, my God and my Lord. Where did he go? Disappeared. Where did he go? He went to India. He went to India to proclaim the good news. What made Thomas so courageous, so powerful, so enduring, so strong? It is the belief in the Lord resurrected. He went to India, he converted a king, he converted his entire family, he converted so many thousands, and at the end he was persecuted. And when he was persecuted, he extended his hands and said, my Lord, my God, today I am going to gain my full freedom. That was what depicted in the documentary, Finding Jesus. Dear friends, when we are convinced of the resurrection of Christ, we are extraordinarily empowered and we become courageous people at the face of pain, poverty, old age, sickness, failures, and misery. That is the meaning of resurrection. And that's why the second reading very clearly said to us, that is a letter written to the Colossians. St. Paul says, you are raised with Christ, therefore look up to the things of heaven, even though you live on earth. We need all the good things that are here on earth. We need our friends, we need our family, we need our neighbors, we need wealth, we need money, we need prosperity, we need happiness. But St. Paul very clearly says, you are not of this world. They are passing things. They come and go. But you are citizens of that eternal heaven. And that is what is indicated through the resurrection. Therefore, dear friends, when we look at these three aspects of the resurrection of Christ, rolling away the stone, breaking the Roman seal, and the fleeing of the guards, indicate to all of us that we Christians cannot stop sharing the good news of Christ, and that is the joy of the gospel. Now today there is such a lot of news about Christians all over the world. Sometimes the leaders say Christians are persecuted, Christians are massacred, there is violence against the Christians. What do you feel about it? It is a thing that happened even in the first century. Christians were persecuted. Dear friends, one thing that we have to be convinced, the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the gospel. We cannot be pessimistic saying that, oh, Christians are persecuted, oh, there is going to be extermination of Christians. I will not buy that. Where there is persecution, dear friends, there will be more and more powerful Christians who will bear witness to Christ's resurrection. And that is the hope of Christians. Christians cannot be exterminated because it is not the work of human beings. It is the work of God. God promised, and God brought Jesus back to life, who is the light of the world, and darkness cannot hide him. God bless you. Kindly rise.